Finally, we are in for some tomfoolery. Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is the Raptor, and next time on Death Battle, after long last, we are getting Wile E. Coyote from Looney Tunes versus Tom Cat from Tom and Jerry, both of which owned by Warner Brothers, which means both of which deserve better. But yes, in case you are out of the loop, we have known this matchup was coming for a very long time. Not because of the Kickstarter, like a lot of the other recent episodes, but because of the Tournament of Champions that finished in 2023. So we've been waiting a long time for it. It's been a long time coming, but I am incredibly excited for this episode. You guys know that I love these kinds of cartoons. They're really the kinds of cartoons that I gravitate towards. Looney Tunes in particular was one of my most wanted series to come onto Death Battle for a long time, and now it's finally coming onto the show. But generally, these kinds of slapstick cartoons are so awesome to me, and Toon Force, Death Battle does really well with Toon Force the vast majority of the time. So with the amount of time they've had to work on this episode for both the animation and the analyses, you know, everything, I am really excited to see what we get. So I think the main question that a lot of people try to look at for this fight is, who is better at their normal job? Who has a higher success rate over their main adversary, being Roadrunner and Jerry respectively? And while both of these characters have been punching bags for decades, Tom easily takes that. Wile E. Coyote has basically never been the Roadrunner, or at least not in any meaningful way that we have seen, whereas Tom has gotten the upper hand over Jerry sometimes. Not often, but sometimes. It has actually happened before. And this is mainly due to the fact that Wile E. Coyote's own personal Toon Force is a lot more purposefully unreliable. As far as the heights of their Toon Force capabilities go, I've seen arguments both ways for who technically has more attack power through feats or scaling, but either way, whenever Wile E is trying to catch the Roadrunner, he fails due to his gadgets backfiring or blowing up in his face, unlike Tom's failures, which are usually due to outside circumstances more often. However, I kind of want to nip this in the bud early. To say that Wile E must lose because he's never been successful at anything ever is frankly a little unfair. Against the Roadrunner, yes, he's helpless. In fact, the laws of the Roadrunner cartoons literally dictate it to be so. But we've seen him in a lot of other cartoons, comics, or stories where his inventions or traps fare a lot better against other cartoon characters, and when he does fail, it's not usually his own fault in those circumstances. To say that Tom would emulate what happens with the Roadrunner specifically doesn't sit right with me. And while Tom is definitely the more skilled combatant, I would say if anything, Wile E is faster than Tom. He's not as fast as Roadrunner, obviously, but he is faster than an unaided Bugs Bunny, who has immeasurable time-traveling burrowing feats. I don't think we've seen Tom do something like that through speed alone. And of course, there are other categories you can go over, such as Tom having more experience in terms of how long these characters have been around, or Wile E having more experience in terms of how many opponents they fought in quantity, and you can do something similar with intelligence and maybe some other categories. However, I am not inclined to believe that a lot of these categories are going to matter much because of how damn unkillable these characters are, regardless of who's more powerful, similar to Scooby-Doo versus Courage. I've seen some people say that that shouldn't be as big of an issue here, and they should each be easy to kill, and I have no idea what they're talking about. Even looking at all of Wile E's failures, none of them have actually resulted in his own death. He's been disintegrated, exploded into fireworks, turned into a constellation for God's sake, and yet he's always back for the next episode, or even the next scene even. And Tom is somehow both easier and harder to kill than that. Just bear with me for a second. While Tom has shown off very similar crazy survivability, we've also literally seen him die before, like spirit flying out of his body or just entering the afterlife, etc. This is usually tied into how he has 9 lives, like literally 9 lives being a cat, and what has killed him should be replicable by Wile E or his tech. But if you're thinking that all Wile E needs to do then is just kill him 9 times, simple as that, No, apparently, because in one of the video games, there's an angel in heaven that will allow Tom to collect more lives and just come back. And if he enters hell, the demons will just kick him out. They don't want him there. I am not making this up. So this is a little frustrating, I do have to admit it. I don't think Death Battle would do another cartoon draw unless their hands were really tied, but we chose this matchup, not them. So if it turns out that way, then it just turns out that way. The only meaningful place I think there's left to look at is their specific powers, whether through inherent abilities or any gadgets they have access to. And naturally, a lot of this stuff is going to overlap with each other, or it's just not going to matter given their survivability, or both. Wile has a ton of tech across his inventions and Acme gadgets, to the point where he's almost certainly more versatile than Tom in terms of sheer quantity. But even a lot of the crazier stuff that he can do, like cloning, size changing, mind controlling, teleporting, time traveling, invisibility, magical powers, elemental control, non-physical interaction, and so much more, way more than I have time to list, we've also seen Tom do before in some way, shape, or form. Wile has a reality warping remote, Tom has a reality warping helmet. I think you can see where this is going. And they both have shown off such explicit resistances to so much of what they have, or could just power through it with their own durability. Now, I will say there are a couple of wild cards here. For one thing, Wile has a Green Lantern ring, although we've never actually seen him use it in combat before, so his effectiveness as a Green Lantern is pretty much unknown. But he also has an anti-Looney gun that can remove a Toon's inability to get harmed by conventional means, or it can remove the ability to bounce back from that kind of harm. Now, I've seen a lot of people say that this should definitely not work because it specifically targets Looney DNA and Tom is not a Looney Toon, and that's definitely a fair interpretation. I could see Death Battle rolling with that. I do want to say though that considering they're all Looney Tunes, I find it weird to believe that they would call it that to distinguish it from some other kind of Toon Force. I honestly think it's possible that that's just the generally accepted term in their universe to describe general Toon Force DNA. I don't think we know for sure that there's a significant enough biological difference between these characters, because Toon Force could just be called different things in different franchises. Still not a guarantee, I want to make that clear, but I could see it going either way. That's the point I'm trying to make. I thought there might be some kind of difference in terms of soul attacking or soul protection, but they seem to be very even there too. Tom and many Looney Tunes have withstood at least some damage to their soul before, and have ways of attacking such things, most notably but not limited to ghost combating equipment. It is worth noting though, I think, that Tom is still the only one of these two characters whose soul we've actually seen forcefully leave his body, and attacking it might be able to circumvent him coming back to life with enough damage. But if there's one major difference between these characters that I think could really dictate things, it's the fact that Wile has access to items that can somehow directly counter other Toons. For one thing, not only does he have a supercomputer that can tell him any information he wants, let alone another one that can always tell him the best plan of attack for the current situation, but it also allows him to order, like immediately order, any Acme brand products that he wants, and some of that stuff has worked wonders. Just to give you a couple of examples, Wile has used items that freeze people in time or put them in a never-ending time loop before, and these have somehow been successful against characters such as Roadrunner, who have proven that they do not need time to move. So even if Tom has shown off a similar resistance to those characters, I don't see him being able to get out of that. Additionally, Acme has a disintegration ray, and its effects can only be reversed by the integration ray, and this has been successful against Daffy Duck, who can usually just come back from disintegration or other attacks of the sort no problem. These would be examples of permanent incapacitation, which Death Battle has implied would count as a victory before, and it might might honestly be the easier way to deal with Tom. Now, yes, it might sound like I'm talking about semantics or very obscure moments or whatnot, but at this point, after going over everything else, I honestly don't know what else to do. And Tom has used a lot of gadgets himself, probably more than you would think, but not really anything that can just arbitrarily bypass Toon Force like that. So this matchup has given me a real big headache, but kind of in a good way because I still really love these kinds of cartoons and how over the top they are, and I promise I am not trying to undermine Tom here. He is insanely impressive, on par with Wile in so many different ways, and he even has his own advantages. But in this comparison, comparing them directly, the best thing that Tom has going for him is the fact that he has a higher success rate than Wile does in the situations that they are most known for. But like I said earlier, Wile is only destined to lose against the Roadrunner specifically. He has shown his competence before against other cartoon characters. And if we're really trying to lock down the best win cons here, then I think that Wile's tools that can either potentially or definitively counter other Toon's abilities, combined with speed and always having access to the best plan of attack for the current situation, all of that makes me want to side with him just a little more. If Death Battle sides with Tom, I'm sure they'll have a good reason for it, and if it's a tie, then it's a tie. Like, what can you do, right? Like, fine, whatever. But in hopes that it will not be a tie, I'm just gonna say Wile Coyote, and we'll see what happens. But of course, this is all just my opinion, so be sure to let me know what you think about this matchup down in the comments below. Personally, I don't think whoever wins is really going to detract from the episode that much as long as the rest of it is good, because again, these are cartoon characters, they're so fun to work with, so I'm just really excited to see what we get out of this. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. But no matter what, thank you all so much for watching, I really do appreciate it. And yeah, that's it for me. I will see you all in the next video. Peace out.